Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Illumini and this is the 11th video in my Ableton Live 10 Basics series. In this video, I'm going to cover some important things that you should know whenever you're working with MIDI clips. Just a quick reminder to leave a like down below and hit that subscribe button. This will help me continue to bring valuable content to awesome viewers like you. So the first thing we're going to cover is how to insert a MIDI clip. It's fairly straightforward. The first thing you want to do is ensure that you have a MIDI track. So it's as simple as coming over here to this right side, right click, and then click Insert MIDI Track. And that will give you a new track. And from there, you could color it if you like. I like to keep mine colored and organized. But from there, you would come over here. You would left click and hold and drag over the area where you want your MIDI clip inserted. Now from here, there's two options. You could either right click, then come down here and click Insert MIDI Clip, or you can use the hotkey listed here, which is Control-Shift-M. Now that we have our MIDI clip, I'm going to show you a bit more about the MIDI editor, which popped up right down here. You'll notice that if you want to get back into your MIDI editor to edit the MIDI, then you'll want to click on the MIDI clip itself. Sometimes you may have to double click, like let's say you are double clicked on your MIDI track where your effects and VSTs are at. Then you will have to double click your MIDI clip again in order to get back to it. So from here we have our MIDI editor, or some people like to call this the piano roll. This is where you will actually insert all of your MIDI in order to play your instrument. So in order to start inserting MIDI, we just simply click twice, and that will insert a key for us. And from here we can do things like drag our MIDI out in order to make the note last longer. Or if you want the note to be less sustained, you would of course make it shorter. A really handy hotkey that I use constantly whenever I'm editing MIDI is the duplication hotkey. So you would want to click and drag over the keys that you want to duplicate and then simply press Control D. Keep in mind that if you hover over some space included with the note, then it will actually duplicate that space as well. So if I was to just delete that and hover over only the note, then it would duplicate it back to back. But if I'm including some empty space in my select, then it will also duplicate it, but it'll add in that empty space. So there's actually one more way to duplicate a note, and that is by clicking and holding, and then you drag that note while simultaneously holding Control or Command. What this does is it will create a duplicate, but it will leave the original note where it is. If you drag and drop without holding that Control or Command key, then it will just move your note. You can also move a note by using the arrow keys on your keyboard. This is handy if you're just trying to get a note to align where you want it with another key perhaps, or just somewhere on this MIDI editor. Another thing I would like to cover is this loop button. So if this is enabled, then whenever you drag your MIDI clip to extend it, then it will actually just loop over the original clip. But if you disable this loop mode and you stretch this out, it will actually just make the MIDI clip itself longer. So that way you have more space to insert your notes if you need to, let's say, add some variation over here instead of just looping over what you currently have. The last thing I would like to cover before we go is grid snap. So the grid is all these little lines that you see in between here. Each line offers a snapping point for your keys, and sometimes you may not want to snap to the point that is currently there. So what you have to do from there is adjust the grid snap. And we do this by right-clicking and then coming down here, and there's a couple of options. There's what's called adaptive grid, which basically you set that and it will adjust the grid based on the level of zoom that you're currently at. If you zoom in deeply, it'll give you the ability to finally place the point at which your key is ending or starting. If you zoom out, then the snap points become fewer, and it gives you greater distances of where the key will actually snap. Lastly, if you find that the current snap point is just simply not working, then just try some of these other options. I like the adaptive grid because it just seems to make things faster and easier, but you could test out the fixed grid options. And there is also this triplet grid option, which you may find yourself using commonly if you produce certain genres or just really like those triplet melodies. Okay guys, that about wraps up this video. I really hope you learned something. If so, be sure to share it with your producer friends, and I hope to see you back for the next one.